Have you ever wanted to manage your household income well? In this video, we will cover 5 areas: income examination and increase, writing a budget, forecasting your finances, debt removal, prioritising expenses well. A brief disclaimer: this isn't official financial advice or career advice. For those things, please seek a professional who will be able to hear your individual needs on those things. First, we'll look at income examination and increase. So with inflation, if we take the fictitious example that a bunch of apples is worth 50p one year and then £1 the next, we have £1 to spend. 1 year, we'll be able to get 2 bunches of apples. The next year, we'll only be able to get 1. So we would say that our spending power has gone down year on year. This is the impact of inflation. We have less money to spend on things because the price of things has gone up. So this is why we want to create a plan to increase our budget. So we'll look at some ways to increase earnings. So a straightforward way to increase earnings could be getting a second job. The advantage of this is it can be quick to do, but also the disadvantage can be the time amount. However, when we want to be able to gain some earnings quickly, this can be a great way to do it. We'll now look at building a career. So let's say we have a job where we already have employability. So if we were to move roles, we would increase in income. When we increase in income, we can often increase at a level that is beyond what we would get just from a pay rise. So we can start with ensuring that the role we're in, we are keeping ourselves employable. One thing we can look at is job descriptions to do with our current role. Are there areas of experience that we already have? Are there areas of experience that we could gain? And when there are areas of experience that we could gain, we can look for opportunities within our current role to actually do those things and offer to do those things so that there's a benefit to the company that we work for and there's a benefit to us so that we remain more employable. Now, we'll look at the scenario of if we already have a good career, we already have a good job, then we may be getting to a point where we're earning the highest amount that can be earned within our industry. So we might want to look at, are there management roles for promotion? Are there more technical roles for promotion? Maybe there are roles where there's a mixture of both of them. And we can then chart a course to go in one of those directions so that we can continue to increase our earnings to a point where we're happy with the fact that our expenses are covered and that the time investment that we've got in those things is worth it for what we're doing. So what about if we're at the lowest level job position? So let's say we worked in retail or maybe in a coffee shop, those types of roles. There are 3 areas that we can consider. There's training, there's evidence of work, and then positioning yourself for opportunities. There are many jobs that will want training, they'll want qualifications. So we can factor that into our plan in terms of whether we take on training at night, whether we can invest in those areas of training, what areas we can train in, what free training is available that can help us along the way. There are also other jobs that care more about a portfolio of work than the qualifications. Even though the qualifications may play a part, they care far more about the portfolio of work. And so it's possible to start building a portfolio of work and use company designs from different places so that different companies can get a better picture of how the work that you do fits into the kinds of things that they're doing. So we'll now think about positioning ourselves for opportunities. When looking for work, there is submitting your CV, and that is something which is worth doing. But when you have a portfolio of work, you can look to send that to different hiring managers and see if they'll give you feedback, see what they think of the work. Because this can be an opportunity, whether there's a CV that you're going to submit, you're already in the mind of the hiring manager. They've already seen work from you. So this can be a great way to create new opportunities as well as taking good advantage of existing ones. However we plan to increase our income from whatever position we're in, a plan to increase income can help us to have a better future, and particularly dealing with issues when we have situations of living paycheck to paycheck, for instance, or whether in a situation where we seem to have more expenses than income, when those expenses are core expenses, where they're not things that are luxuries. Next, we'll look at writing a budget. So writing a budget is great for seeing the money that we've got coming in and the money that we've got going out. This can be great for prioritization of expenses, whether it's rent, mortgage compared to takeaways, for instance. Maybe we see that we have a seashell collection, for instance. So with a seashell collection, we may find that we're spending certain money on that, and we also need to spend money on an electric bill. A budget can be a great way to identify needs versus wants. So once we're up and running with a monthly budget, we may want to consider forecasting. So we might want to forecast what our income and expenses are going to be over the whole year. This can be great with something like birthdays, for example. So let's say in 1 month, in the month of November, we have about 5 different birthdays. Then by forecasting, we get 2 choices where we can either increase the amount we save in other months so that we have more money available for the birthdays in that month, or we can look to spread the spend of those birthdays so that we buy the gifts for those birthdays over other months. And forecasting gives us flexibility like this that we wouldn't have only having a monthly budget. This can be great as well for preparing for Christmas. Many people spend a lot of money at Christmas, and if we're able to spread the cost of Christmas over multiple months, or if we're able to save over multiple months in order to spend at Christmas, this can be a big help. So next we'll talk about debt removal. Debt can be a monthly expense, but it spreads the finances out over many months, and they feel like they can pay for it. And because they feel like they can pay for it, it gives them the peace of mind that they haven't got a lot more expenses in a single month that they otherwise wouldn't be able to have. The downsides with debt can be there can be other charges for late payment. Some debt may charge for paying back early. And when we pay off debt, we free up a monthly expense. The thing with interest payments, by the time you've paid off a debt, you've paid off more than the original cost was going to be, because you've got the interest on top of that. The other thing is there can be many loans where you are only servicing the interest. So you're not paying down the debt, you're only paying off the interest every month. Therefore, by paying off the debt, you can ensure that you're not spending far more than even the debt itself is worth. Finally, we'll talk about prioritizing expense as well. So we start with shelter, then drink, then food, then other bills. We have services like phone contracts, and we can shop around for the best deal. When we get that prioritization right, we start with the necessities, and then anything which is a want, then we can choose whether we can afford to include that or not. So we can have more sustainable financial management in our own lives. With my own financial journey, I started off with no budget. Then, by making a budget, I was able to remove needless expenses. And the benefits of this have included less debt, less stress, achieving financial goals. Now, in implementing budget plans and plans to increase income, this will help you with your own financial goals. Birds of a feather, we grow together.